welcome everyone to a very special episode of Conversations in the Void. I am Graveyard, joined as always with my off-screen producer, Salem. Make sure to say hi to Salem in the chat. So we have a returning guest, and he's brought a friend tonight, and instead of our normal interview, we are going balls to the wall here with Phantasm, as we recently did an entire two-part episode podcast about Phantasm, and prep for this show to be here tonight. So please welcome back to the show, Dan Bowhers, and his co-writer, Nick Brandreth.
Yeah.
First time here. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I like that Nick's like in a creepy little cave somewhere. Like a hobgoblin style. I love it.
Oh, trust me, I get it. This is just a green screen behind me. I have literally no windows in my office here in the basement, so. All right, you guys ready to talk, as we're calling it, horror talks, Phantasm?
Fuck yeah.
So I said, not typical show, but before we get into it, so what made you, I know, Dan, you have the book we talked about when you were on the show last. Why Phantasm, of all things to talk about?
Well, I gotta be honest, man. Like I in anticipation for this, I finally watched all 5 movies in a row. And I think there's a reason I've never done that before. But I did realize that like Phantasm, more than any other singular horror film, it is its own genre.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are slashers, there are like Exorcist movies, whatever. Then there's Phantasm, and it's just like marching along. It's like part paranormal, part road trip movie, part action movie. There's so many explosions, which makes no sense. Like Phantasm rules. It's so unique.
Well, what about you, Nick?
You know, a couple years ago, I don't know, it's been more than a couple years ago, but I watched it. I don't know if it was streaming somewhere, and it just clicked something, and it influenced a lot of other creative thoughts. And then Dan and I really bonded over it. It's just like it's nuts, man. It's freaking crazy. It really is. It's something else, and it's a truly awesome piece of, like, you know, it's surrealist horror, if you want to look at it like that. And it's like you said, it's a league of its own, man. I don't know about the other movies, but the first one is just.
Hey, Michael.
Oh shit! Got creeps.
Uh-oh. So, I mean, let's talk about first Phantasm movie, right? So 1979. So really predate, you know, between Halloween and Friday the 13th, you know. So, you know, Dan, what are your thoughts about Phantasm? And if anyone hasn't seen it, we can spoil it. It's, you know, 30 or 45-year-old movie at this point in time. So, you know, tell us about what your feelings about Phantasm, the first one, was.
So the first time I saw it, I just remember being blown away. I just remember thinking, like, this movie has its own set of rules. It's completely batshit. It looks great. It looks schlocky at times. It sounds amazing. I think that's something that like people forget about. Like in this era, you've got John Carpenter bringing synth scores back and making synths kind of cool, which, you know, that was not really the case kind of before Halloween. Like Halloween ushered in a new era of soundtracks, and like right as that's happening, you get this dude who, you know, he was born in Libya, like Don Coscarelli. I don't know if I'm even pronouncing his last name right. You know, he's like a Libyan immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
He made Phantasm when he was fucking 23. And it's his third feature. Like, think about it.
Yeah.
He's made, and like the other movies aren't even horror films. I just think it shows that it was made kind of outside Hollywood, and it's totally independent, because it doesn't feel like anything. It doesn't feel like even movies that are trying to be Hollywood. It's just, and I'm using that literally to mean your studio films, you know, like, and I think part of it is he grew up in like kind of outside California, outside of Hollywood. Like you could probably go and understand like how to do things, but Phantasm just has a super outsider vibe to it, and I love that. It's tangible. It's sort of like the East Coast Friday the 13th movies. Like they feel different,
right,
in all the best ways.
Oh, what about you, Nick? You know, what makes you have that just love of Phantasm?
I think Dan and I were talking about it one time, and it's like it's like a perfect horror movie for like a teenage boy, you know what I mean? And it's just like all these different parts of it. And there's like, I still have like a very strong connection to my inner teenage boy, and it never, like, it's a vibe. It's such a feeling, and like Dad said, it plays by its own set of rules. And it's really hard to say. It's just such a cool, everything about it, like as he was saying, like the sound, and like I think that's something that carries through the other movies. It's like, as weird as they get, like they still sound really cool. All the the music and stuff like that, but that score, it's so driving, and it just like gets inside of you.
Yeah, I mean, as Dan knows, other people know, I have the orb, right
Nice.
here as a tattoo, because I needed something there, and I go, you know what? It's the Sentinel, the orb. It is perfect to fit into the horror sleeve. Close to 80 slasher. Like I said, I'm already pretty much 80 slashers, but it's right there, so close. So I had to include it.
It's such a weird thing. Like, so much of all horror films start from either like literature, whether it's like Frankenstein, Dracula, or whether it's like Ed Gein becoming like the basis for Psycho or something. And then here's this dude, just this like kid in fucking California, just like, oh yeah, this ball, there's gonna be a chrome ball that's just gonna like launch itself into your skull and drill a hole. And I think it's awesome. Like, he made his own shit up, and that's really what filmmaking should be, is Phantasm.
And I think what's really neat about those movies too is I lost my train of thought.
I wonder why.
Yeah, no, but shit, I totally thought where I was going to go with that. Oh my god, I'm sorry.
No worries.
I was like, oh, I had this great idea, this awesome thought, and out the one. Never mind, forget it.
That's the Phantasm effect right there. It's just warping your brain, man.
Yeah, I mean, and he created the tall man, Angus Scrum, right? And he is his own thing. Is he supernatural? Is he an alien? Is he a demon? Is he from a different dimension, different planet, creating dwarf slaves to use for his nefarious deeds? As the movie progresses over the next 37 years, it drastically changes.
And that's what I was trying to. That's now I remember. It's cosmic horror. It's cosmic horror without like, there's not a creature. There's not some big horrible thing. There are kind of creatures with the lurkers, but they're I don't know. It's like, I think when you think cosmic horror, you think like Cthulhu and some big horrible monster or something like that. But the tall man is like, he's just this unstoppable force, and it's just like, it makes like he comes from someplace else, and I think that's what's really fun, is that the first movie, at least, they don't answer all those questions. You're just like the prongs on the floor in this other dimension, and then you get that sort of hellscape sort of thing, and it's a really cool take on cosmic horror that I think is you don't see it that way a lot of other places. And it's kind of cool too, because I guess I was in preparation for this, I went and looked, and he does John dies at the end, which that's so out there too. And that was a really cool, I really enjoyed that. And I didn't put that together until right now. And both of those influences, both of those movies played an influence on my own creative sort of things. And then the creative collaborations, with Dan and I, it's cool. And I think that he kind of creates, like, it could become like a mythos, like Lovecraft, but like, I don't know. It's like, he has a lot of these, it's a big idea, the tall man and the things. It's neat.
Yeah, and we obviously, when we do our script, recorded podcast that we do, that we edit down, like I said, we just finished up. We're uploading the second part of that. We call the episode "Ketchup and Mustard," both of them, because it's realistically almost ketchup-like blood they use for the red blood, and the alien blood is yellow. It looks like watered down mustard.
It's definitely it's cool how the movie just has to kind of wash over you. Like, you either are on board and you can kind of just like relax your muscles and turn your brain to like another way of thinking, and you just enter the Phantasm world, or you don't. And like, it doesn't work for everyone. And if someone told me they hate this movie, I mean, I disagree. I think that's a dumb, like, it's a bummer. But I get it. I wouldn't be like, I wouldn't expect, especially like, there's nothing in this film for women to like latch on to.
My wife's always like, why are we watching this again?
Yeah, my wife's the same way. Like I said, when I do the show, she kind of like I tell her, I'm like, okay, here's on the docket for this week. Here's what we're watching. I'm like,
She's
do
like,
you
oh
want to
fuck,
watch it?
Phantasm.
Yeah, I'm like, do you want to watch it with me, or do you not want to watch it? So I have to know schedule and be somewhere else in the house while I watch it. She's like, yeah, no, I'm good. I don't need to. I don't need to watch these.
But like it's a movie, like I said, the teenage boy, like there's sex, there's guns, like these epic one-liners too, man. There's a hardcore. I think is it Municipal Waste. There's a hardcore band. Maybe I can't remember who it is. It's hardcore or thrash metal, and they sample like that. You know what we got to do? We got to go up there. We got to grab him and drive a stake through his goddamn heart. And like then the song starts. It's fantastic, man.
It's it's so unique and weird and imperfect, and I think that's something that we always forget, or we're always like moving away from. Like as artists and as people, we keep expecting perfection. AI is going to do it faster or whatever. And there's so much soul in this movie. And like that sounds really pretentious and stupid, but like that's why people care about Phantasm still. That's why like JJ fucking Abrams is remastering Phantasm.
Right.
This movie works itself into you, and that's the power of movie making.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many kills you have or what fucking happens in your movie. If it has no soul, it's pointless. And like that movie is just dripping with energy and just crazy thoughts that I am just so down for. Because like every time you think you remember all the bits of Phantasm, you're like, all right, that little he puts his hand in it, like stolen straight out of Dune. Like,
but I like him too because he puts his hands like, I feel pain. Okay, sure. You know, and that scene really has no point to the story. It's just there, you know, and I think that's great. And maybe there's a little bit of payoff, you know, in number 3 or 4, perhaps.
I think it definitely has a point in the story because it establishes and it normalizes weird shit in this universe, and there's stuff beyond comprehension. Is like that's now he knows that the weird shit exists.
Right. Now, you know, how do you feel with, you know, Reggie being kind of like the focal point then after number 1? Because Reggie becomes the Ash Williams of this franchise.
Reggie Bannister fucking kicks ass, man. There's a pizza place. I mean, no one knows this. I'm in New York City. That's why I'm at my desk and you can see my couch and my kitchen sink. Like this has to be. There's a Reggie's Pizza down the street. And I've never eaten there. I don't think I ever will because I just don't want it to suck. And it probably does. But I just like to think that it's like Reg is just like he's hung up his ice cream truck clothes and he's just like slinging pizzas in Queens.
The quad shotgun, though, it's under the counter just in case.
There you go.
The quad fucking shotgun. It's so unnecessary and stupid.
See, part of me wishes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I mean, part of me is like one of the ways I thought about it. Dan mentioned that he had gotten that book about the Phantasm, and like there's like some short stories. Like the more I think about it, like I would have loved if it actually went the route of like what John Carpenter wanted to do with Halloween, that each one is its own story. I would love to like follow people, and it kind of starts to do that because you can see as you get through the other movies, like they're encountering all these other people that have been like, you know, torn apart by the tall man. And like, if it would be cool if it's like, you know, I like Jody and I like Reggie, but it'd be sweet to see like other stories of like how the tall man, you know, because in my imagination, he's, you know, he's everywhere or can be everywhere.
Right. Well, and I think it's interesting is, you know, if you really dive into it, like Eric Kripke, when he created the TV show Supernatural, about people going hunting things in the classic black muscle car, and with even the trunk full of weapons they got from the Phantasm franchise, especially the Pacific Northwest.
It's totally it's like I said, it's its own fucking genre, man. And like I love when you can see the threads to stuff. Like I just saw a found footage movie trailer with like a bunch of doors everywhere, and I can't help but sort of feel like we take credit for that. Abstractly, and I think like Phantasm does that in spades. It's all over the place. Like I think the Cuda, the fucking car chases, the explosions, like it was an action movie, sci-fi horror film that like begrudgingly became a franchise. Because I also know he was not like keen to make sequels,
Right.
unlike so many of his contemporaries. Like Don Coscarelli, I should know how to say this dude's name, but it's a fucking tongue twister, man. I think he wanted to make different shit.
Mm-hmm.
I think most filmmakers want to make different shit. John Carpenter, like Nick said, same deal. I don't think anyone really wants to just keep rehashing. If you can just like start fresh and build your own little world again and again and again. Which it's a shame that's not what happened with the Phantasm sequels, because that would have been awesome. I know all the ones because we were pitching like a Phantasm animated series. I was working out with some people who are doing this like cartoon thing for Ozzy Osbourne, and they wanted to do a Phantasm series, and I pitched a whole like 3-season arc, and I would love to watch it. It would be so fucking sick.
How do you feel? Let's get into a little bit of Phantasm 2 here. With it almost picks up, it picks up exactly where it left off, right? And to the point that Reggie's like, there you go. It picks off like Reggie they're having the fireside chat, right? And he's going, Jody died in the car crash, but he didn't. And then he forgets that. And then boom, there's people there and he has to save him and blow up the house. Right. And it's interesting that you have that happen. Like you have it there. Obviously the kid's not the same, but Reggie's always the same. They just do a time jump. It's like, all right, it's been 7 or 8 years at this point in time. Now let's see what's going on here, to the point where Reggie doesn't necessarily believe that the tall man exists, and it's just like a re-finding of the tall man. Now, how do you feel that worked as a sequel?
Oh, I'm not gonna pass judgments, good or bad. That's not my place.
You can watch though. It's like there's definitely like I said, he has like big ideas, and it's fun. Like it's cool to see people go for it, and they get zany. I think in the movies too, you kind of start to see in the second and third one, like, or at least the second one, like elements of like what else is going on, in movies at that time. Like there's definitely some like Evil Dead vibes, at certain points, like there's like camera shot, and I think they kind of play into other things that are, in the movies that are popular at that point. But they don't hit as hard as the first one does, and that one's the freaking best though. But it's fun to watch them,
Yeah, and number 4, Oblivion, they took a lot of deleted scenes from the first movie, and then kind of made the story off of what's there. That Reggie now has like busting out his ice cream man suit that he's always had in the trunk, and he just goes to town. He really transforms, I feel, into, like I said, the Ash Williams, the Ripley of the franchise at that point in time.
Whoa, Ash's last name is Williams?
Yeah.
Fucking 39 years old and still learning shit every day.
I like how they killed the tall man in the second movie with all the yellow stuff is like gushing out of him and stuff. That's freaking awesome.
It's really shocking, like, that any of these movies are like discernible at all, because there's just so many things. Like there's the body parts that turn into bugs. There's just like, and what I do like is you never really expect to find out why. It just keeps kind of going.
Right.
It's not too like exposition-y or explain-y. Like I hate that. Like having to explain like why does Rey have Luke Skywalker's lightsaber? Like I just that shit is boring. Right. Phantasm is like, fuck that. This is cool. Deal with it.
And the Sentinel has a saw now. It's like, all right, sick.
Yeah.
Well, there's giant like planet-sized Sentinels.
And there's also brains now inside the Sentinels.
Yeah.
Or later spirits.
Even to the point where Michael gets his Sentinel in his head, and he's almost being controlled by it. So every movie makes up it adds to the mythos, but does also add different rules to the franchise and the lore each time. It has the tuning fork that is able to kind of paralyze the Sentinels for a little bit, and the tall man and everything like that, but it's only in that movie.
Yeah, I think that came back at some point. I love that. I just think that's like a cool idea. It like looks interesting. It sounds weird. It's like you've all seen a tuning fork. I don't think anyone could really explain how they work unless you're a real musician. And they're just strange.
Mm-hmm.
There was another. Oh, the sentinels coming out of boobs.
Yep.
I mean, it's really like, yeah. Again, I'm shocked that women don't rant and rave about Phantasm. There's also never a female character for more than like 15 minutes at any one time.
Well, because Reggie gets his horn dog on, and then they usually die, or they turn out to be part of the tall man's group.
There is a sex scene in Phantasm 2, I think it is, where she is just like riding him in the most insane manner that I've ever seen. And then you realize that like they have like he's got pants on. So like she's just like giving him the most like violent dry. He's like, yeah, there's just I wonder why. Like I guess they just didn't give a fuck, or they just didn't know any women to like be in the film for more than like 10 hours. They were just like, I don't want to be a part of this, and they would just run away.
And it's like it's the type of shit that you can't like. You couldn't make that in a movie nowadays. Where like Reggie's like, come on, let's go right now. He's like, let's do it.
I just picked you up on the side of the road that after I caused your car to crash, let's bone.
Yeah,
they do like as they went on, like that shtick doesn't work for Reggie after like movie 3 or 4, and then they're like, "Oh, fuck you!" And like it's not like he ever forces himself. He's just like your inappropriate uncle, and like he kind of becomes aware of that as it goes on. Like he's not like there's definitely like way more sexually aggressive stuff in Friday the 13th, like. Like dudes like slapping women and stuff. Like there's just like it's not okay. And at least Phantasm is like. He's asking for consent, but he's also just being a sleazeball about
it.
Oh yeah, and Reggie gets his groove on every time he can, but
which is great.
But it's like he's like the creepy uncle. It's like you're awesome, but oh man,
yes. Like realistically, like you don't really want to hang out with anyone in Phantasm.
No,
like if you could probably make like what's the horror movie that like if you had to be in, you would be in.
Oh, I would say just Poltergeist because no one dies.
Oh.
Yeah, and as long as you're not in that house, like right.
Right. It's happened one time and to only one house, even though multiples were buried on the same burial ground. So yeah.
Or Jaws. I'm like, shark, not gonna go swimming.
The thing with being in Poltergeist is if you're an actor in Poltergeist, they all died.
Yeah, that's very true. It's a cursed film, so
yeah. I don't like it's funny because I think Phantasm would be a really fun set to be on for me as a white dude, but yeah, I can't say that like in my like real life I'd be wanting to like hang out with Reggie in New York City. Like I think that would be pretty hellish.
Would you want to hang out with the sadistic Kevin McAllister?
Wait, like actual Kevin McAllister?
The kid that like booby trapped his house when the punk gang came in and just like murdered them all with like a razor frisbee.
No, I don't. I forgot that character was even in the movie. I thought you were making a joke about Home Alone 2 for a second. I'm like, well, I'll do this, but
it's like Kevin McAllister. That
you're right. It was totally like a Kevin McAllister vibe. Or I always just think of Home Alone as Die Hard for kids.
There you go.
No, I would not want to hang out. There's no one in Phantasm I'd want to hang out with. Jody, maybe. At least he seems pretty subdued. But like
ride some dirt bikes or something.
Yeah. Like Mike's a lunatic. He's like, even when he's a child, he's like using a hammer to like ignite a shotgun shell to blow off a doorknob. Like that's a moment in the movie.
He could have just used the hammer to break the doorknob. Instead, he blew it up.
Yeah, those sets are like all about to tip over. I fucking love it. They're all about to go the way of a door. Just
right.
Yeah. I love how like the guns too, when they like arm themselves, they're just like casually out. They're like, yeah, let's get this shotgun. He's like, I'm gonna put the 45 will put down a man.
There's also a lot of good life lessons to take from Phantasm, which I think doesn't get talked about enough. Mike tells you no fear, which I think inspired a clothing company, and he just keeps saying it. I forgot he did that in the first Phantasm. He just keeps saying no fear over and over and over again.
Yeah,
Or that I think that's an important one to never forget. And I think just the way it deals with your emotions and your psychology is really important, to just like stuff it down and blow up your house and go on to the next one.
Well, you have to blow up your family that no one ever sees in the second house explosion. where
Wait, which house?
Reggie's family's in the house in the second
Reggie's
movie.
family's in the house, and he has the dream that's like it's gonna blow up, and then it blows up, and then Reggie's like, my family that none of us ever saw.
Yeah.
Well, I think back to what Dan was saying though. In the first movie, though, it's like it's two brothers that are like grieving the death of their parents.
Mm-hmm.
So like, did all this stuff really happen in the first movie, or was it like Mike's fever dream because of how he dealt with his parents dying, and his brother, having to come back to take care of him.
Right.
It's heavy. Their parents are dead, turned into creatures.
You can tell the first one stands alone because of that emotion. I think like there's some really thoughtful sequences, like Mike's like chasing him when Jody's like riding the bicycle away, and Mike's afraid his brother's gonna leave him and abandon him. That shit's great. Like that's what makes horror movies work, everybody. When you fucking care.
Yeah.
There's an idea.
Maybe don't just like line up despicable people and lay them to waste. I mean, there's something fun. If it's animals, I want to watch that though, to be honest.
Yeah.
I like to watch animals eating mean people.
So let me ask the question. Let's go into some little bit of theories. When did Jody die? Was it in the car crash, or was it what really happened in the first movie? Because they waver back and forth throughout the entire franchise and what actually happened to him.
I think the tall man took Jody. The car crash, I feel like, is a cover up. Like that's big car crash. It's big seatbelt trying to like push a narrative. But I'm not wearing a seatbelt.
What do you think, Nick? When do you think Jody died?
Definitely, tall man got him.
Yeah.
Why you buy the car crash?
No, because it makes no sense, because we see Mike with his parents going to Jody's funeral, which they died a year before their other friend died and all that stuff happened. So it's almost gaslighting in a way that the tall man is that powerful. He's able to erase partial memories from people.
That's not nice.
Yeah. But it's true. Like I think Reggie gets brainwashed at least 2 or 3 times at every change, to the point where in Ravager he doesn't know what's real and what's not anymore.
And the counterpoint, or I guess the interesting side note there, is that you really know what visual effects are versus like what's real in the movie, because that movie looks like a pile of shit.
You didn't like the hellscape that was just 3 people fighting, and then the giant moon-sized orbs flying overhead?
Ravager was a hellscape. It's funny because the more movies I think I spend time making, I find it really hard to talk shit on films, but that movie's an exception. And I'm sorry, like it shouldn't exist. If I would wipe it from the earth. Like it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible that movie got made.
Yeah, I still have to watch 4 and 5. So
4 is actually not bad compared. Like 4 looks like fucking Citizen Kane next to Ravager.
Yeah, and it was 18 years between them, and between 4 and 5.
And look, I guess just to like not be a total dick about it, if I was in that situation, I would probably do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I think that like they like working together. They like making films together, and they had like a vibe, and they were just doing their thing. And like at a certain point, it didn't matter what it was. It was about like a process of like a bunch of dudes doing this weird ass thing with this like I don't know. That's awesome. Right. But it's a shame that I wasted like 90 minutes of my life watching it.
Now, did you like the post-credit scene then of Ravager?
If there was a post-credit scene, I had like probably just punched myself in the face so many times that I wasn't able to see anymore. Like it was not, no. If there was, I didn't know there were credits.
Now, Dick, do you want to know what the post-credit scene is?
What is it?
Yeah.
Rocky's back.
What? Who's Rocky? The kid?
No, the chick that had the nunchucks.
Oh, her name is Rocky?
Yeah.
That's how much time the female characters get in these movies. I'm sorry. If you had just said like nunchucks McBoobs, I would have been like, oh, her.
Because I think especially the ending that we get with Ravager, it's set up like the ending of Ash versus Evil Dead, but before that, and just like there's going to be this epic fight that they take it to the Tall Man, and they're ready to go fight him once and for all. Now it's been 8 years since the last one, and Anger's died. Do you guys think we'll ever get another Phantasm?
No, we shouldn't.
We shouldn't. You say you don't want Blumhouse to come through and make a trilogy of pretty awful Phantasm movies?
I mean, Blumhouse, I'm sure would do a good job. But no, it's their thing, and it honestly seems a bit sacrilegious to like. I think when we were pitching and trying to get the cartoon made, it came from a place where this is a totally different format. This is like, let's animate it. We would never. I don't think you could do another movie though. I don't think that's okay. It's like replacing Princess Leia or something. It just doesn't feel right, and at least to me. That said, money talks, so I'm sure.
Yeah.
Depends on the desperation, but fortunately, Hollywood's collapsing, so it'll probably never happen. And I don't think Phantasm is on that many radars.
No. Yeah, you think by now they would have, especially with 2016. There you go. Hey, studio heads, we have this franchise that most people don't realize. Let's make the next 8 of them, and 2 get made, and the rest get canned. The overall.
Yeah, but you kind of like don't really have the desperation to like embrace a kind of dead franchise. There's so, like horror IP comes so quickly. It gets there's so many people making shit too that they'll just reboot Exorcist, like try that again. We're going to see more of that. I think just like total world building reboots, which is a bummer because there's enough people doing weird shit that they should just get their chance.
Yeah, I've heard rumors they're going to either remake or make a new Chud.
Really?
Oh
Yeah.
no!
Who's they?
Some studio said, I forgot who it was, but they had like sounds like we're remaking Chud.
You talking goss?
Maybe.
But like I feel like with a movie like Chud though, it's like Chud is like easier to remake than a movie like Phantasm because like the Tall Man's it's the Tall Man, and if you put somebody else in there, I don't know, maybe it could work, but it's not. I don't know. But like Chud's a Chud. You could like to have like a modernized like creature design of a Chud would be really cool. I'm not saying modernized, but like let's see somebody else's take on a Chud. That'd be cool.
That's why I asked who, because depending, it could be quite interesting. I love New York City movies. I think that they fucking rule, and it's just like really difficult to do New York City horror, and it's why you don't see an awful lot of it. And when you do, it's like Scream 7 or whatever one that was that just looked like it was on sets, looked like a sitcom the whole time.
Yeah, I mean they're also talking about remaking Basket Case at some point.
Too. Yeah, I think that will happen. I just feel like I've been seeing a lot of Basket Case memes, and that's probably someone's scheme working. It's just I think I've been seeing a lot of like Basket Case re-release T-shirts and stuff. So someone who owns that is starting to push something along. Yeah, got their grubby little hands in the Basket Case.
Yeah, like I've said before, I think Malignant was a modern remake of Basket Case as it was.
I will say, like, there are definitely like Phantasm things I wish I saw, like while Angus was alive. Like, I think doing one of the episodes that I wanted to do for the cartoon was Phantasm, but like Cape Cod in the off season. I wanted to like focus on like different places when they were dead versus alive, and even like I wanted to kind of anchor the story in Detroit when Detroit was like Motown to Detroit in like the 80s. And I wanted to kind of like take it along different places that were in different states of being. And like, that would be the cool thing about Phantasm, in my opinion. It's like more than the Tall Man, even it's where he's been and what it does to an area is where the movies could have been like, I think kind of insightful in a way that they, like the Planet of the Apes kind of level of insightful. Like, look at this. Isn't this crazy? Life is destructive. Like that's a cool theme to look at. In the respect of like a parallel dimension with chrome orbs that drill into your skull.
If you're lucky, some of them have lasers.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the humane one.
Oof.
So, if you guys were to make a Phantasm movie, who would be your other than Angus, who's currently alive, that you would want to play the Tall Man?
Oh, I would. Fuck! Don't even do him. Don't do the tall man dirty. It's disrespectful to Angus. You never show his face. You have to like make it more just about the little gremlins or other things. So you got enough antagonists to choose from. You'd have to not include him in my opinion.
It's the short man now. Get somebody else.
No, you got to like one up it, like Alien to Aliens. Now it's got to be like instead of the tall man, you got the short men. Like
Yeah.
And of course, it's still only dudes. There's no.
it's Danny DeVito. He's like, I'm the short man.
You know what? Yeah, that's what you watch. You watch it. It's completely flipped. It's like one of those lurkers that's played by Danny DeVito gets stuck in the suburb.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to get back to like his space. It's sort of like if you watched Alien from the alien's perspective,
Right.
it essentially becomes Die Hard in space.
Yeah.
So like, what I want to do is make like a fun Danny DeVito comedy as a creature from another dimension trying to get home.
He's the lurker trying to get back. He's got to get to the fork.
Maybe it's like eye-opening. Like he's seeing like all the chaos and bullshit that he's imposed on some people, and he's like feeling really bad. Like Danny DeVito's having like a crisis of like identity as he experiences the wrath that he helped bring to this place.
I like it. I know. I would pick, I think, Bill Hader to play the Tall Man.
Bill Hader. Well, actually, that would be pretty cool.
Because he's pretty tall and lanky, and he, especially with the stuff that he's done, he has that face. And I can just see him going, boy.
Honestly, that's not bad. I mean, I don't hate that. And that might be the only person I don't like have a violent reaction to. He's also like a horror nut. I mean, he's a movie nut.
Yeah.
But you gotta like them all, right?
Yeah. There you go. We'll make it happen with Bill Hader, Phantasm.
Yeah, we'll make it happen with Bill Hader.
And co-starring Danny DeVito.
That's it. As a lurker, yes.
Is it just the one, or could there be multiple Danny DeVitos?
I think he can get multiple. I think he can have, one has like an ear piercing, one has a nose ring, just to.
Oh no, I meant like one would be like Danny DeVito from Twins. One would be Danny DeVito from season 7 of It's Always Sunny.
There you go.
Just doing like really elaborate face deconstruction stuff.
And all of it improv.
Yeah, Danny DeVito from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
There you go.
What if I just started listing a bunch of Joe Pesci movies, but I kept to the bit, and you guys are just like, what's he talking about?
Yeah, My Cousin Vinny, that one was great.
Yeah, I love Danny DeVito and My Cousin Vinny.
Well, we have to have him as the Penguin then.
Yeah.
Pulls you back into the mausoleum.
And then they're just a bunch of penguins that are now lurkers.
See, that's the beauty of Phantasm, is it's so bizarre. It's like, why does his finger turn into a bug and fly out the window?
Why not?
Where are these creatures are? Why can the freaking tall man bench press or gorilla press a coffin and throw it? It's great. So
especially
all these things.
Especially those guys had such a struggle with that coffin. First off, they're shoulder to shoulder as walking normally as pallbearers. But they just clearly didn't know how to do it. But I thought that's hilarious.
The idea, though, of replacing the tall man does seem disturbing to me, though, because I think that those movies, like all movies, should just exist and be left alone.
Yeah, I mean, at some point in time, someone will do it. Let's face it.
I think it'd be a really cool, like it could be like if you did them as like, I don't know, short films, but like an animated thing could be really cool, or like a graphic novel would be awesome. I think like that would be the best medium if like one were to try to continue like the Phantasm world would be through like comic books or something. Because then again, you don't have to replace him. I don't want to see him get shot.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, and like that's a good remake is kind of like a good song cover, and like that often works better if you kind of like move it to another space or another genre or something. So like, or a different medium, like you don't really want to hear like a punk cover of a Bad Religion song, but
Right.
if someone does a reggae cover of it, that could be pretty fucking weird.
Are you saying that when Simple Plan did American Jesus, it wasn't good?
Yeah, I didn't know they did that. That's not good.
It's
I don't
not.
need to hear it to
Trust me.
tell you that it's not good.
It's not good. I can tell you that as a Bad Religion fan and the wife is a Simple Plan fan, it's not good.
Oof. That Tiny Voice is named after a Bad Religion song.
Oh yeah, from
It's
from the Gray Race album.
No, it's on Stranger Than Fiction.
Is it Stranger Than Fiction?
Yeah.
Mm.
Unless it's been recorded on more than one, which is
And who
possible.
knows at this point in time? It's all untested from the European album.
Right.
So, I mean, I think if you did a Gothic Art Deco 1920s version of Tall Man, where it's silent film, would work.
Yeah, it would have a real like Captain Dr. Caligari vibe, which is always cool.
Yeah.
You gotta, and like because Phantasm has that sort of surrealist kind of like bent to it, so it would work well with doing that, or even like a German expressionist if you went even further down the Caligari train.
Right.
That would be really cool. Like, could you imagine seeing like the orb flying at like 8 frames per second? It's like,
Yeah, that could be interesting. You'd have to really push that far, like what they did with the Lighthouse, but in a totally different era, and just
Yeah. Well, I mean, because we have, the Tall Man was the mortician in the 1860s. So he became the Tall Man, and he was there for 110 years essentially before Jody and Mike ran into him and Reggie. So you have 110 years you can explore all periods of the Tall Man.
Well, and also he could be bopping around before that too.
Right.
I mean, if he could.
Well, it'd be cool, like I like what they did with the Predator when they like not like showing like Predator in different time periods now, like same kind of thing, But that's what the fun part about it is. Like it is almost like an action movie, and it is, you got this horror side to it. But it'd be kind of cool like that. Like the Predator, he's kind of is a predator through space and time, stealing your dead bodies.
I would do Phantasm in different decades and have that style of the most popular horror genre to be the style of that film. So if you did like the 20s, it'd be that rust colored, right? So it'd almost be like Haxan, and you can just like do Nosferatu. But then you can get into like the 40s and 50s where it's almost like atomic age radio broadcast for it and stuff like that. Do 60s, do like a classic Hammer or a Vincent Price style movie with just bright color sets and everything like that.
It's a cool idea. It's similar to like what like the Ty West trilogy did, but you want to go further, which is cool. And I don't know. I just think it's like it's a tough one. It's a tough cookie because it's so close to that dude as well. Like he made that shit independent of the studio, and if he's going to sell it to someone now, he's going to probably, bank on it.
Oh, easily.
World War II Tall Man, and then you can have Nazis and everybody will love it.
Oh, he would.
Very different reasons.
The Tall Man would absolutely be a Nazi. He'd be creating his own army with orbs.
Yeah. Ooh, brutal.
So let's go into the Tall Man. So, what do you think the Tall Man actually is?
I think he's a demon.
You think he's a demon?
Sort of. I mean, he's like a weird spirit has embodied him. He's definitely not human, but he's not an alien either.
That's what I like. That's why I said cosmic horror earlier, just because it's like I don't know if I can define what the Tall Man is, but he's something that like that's the fun part about cosmic horror is that like it's that insignificance, like in the face of something just insane, and that's the Tall Man is terrifying. He just like he'll keep coming, and he's got these creatures, and he has super strength, and he can visit you in your dreams, and he can manipulate your mind. It's absolutely. A cosmic horror creature. He might be some sort of elder god, just playing around, So, and I think I like leaving it sort of mysterious too, though. So, but he's definitely some sort of, super powerful being.
And he can shapeshift into a woman and bone you too.
Yeah, weird. So, does that mean you're boning the tall man then? It's like,
Yeah, a lot of places when I was doing the research for the podcast and stuff like that, it's like a lot of people are saying he's an alien coming to create slaves out of people to go back to his home planet to do what? I have no idea. I don't know what his end goal actually is.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think that's how. I think we need more of that. I think that's why the movie's fucking dope.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's usually like there's always an exposition dump. Usually by like the second or third movie in the franchise, you get the lore like just slapped across your face. But with Phantasm, you're still guessing on every single piece of it.
well, again, that's the fun. You can ponder then. So if he is an alien, or like, is it like a Matrix style thing where like they're using like humans for like energy? Because they put the bodies in those barrels and stuff, right?
Yeah. But who knows? Like I said, he has the lurkers, obviously, right? Then he has the people he transforms into the Sentinels. Then he has the people that become the grave diggers that wear the gas masks, and he just has different layers of Legion behind him to do what though? Like, is he stealing all the dead? Is he killing them? I mean, and that's like I said, that's great. We're like I said, 30, 45 years later, we still don't have an answer, and I don't think we ever will.
But maybe if you go the route of like what Dan said, if he's a demon, maybe he's like building an army of ghouls to attack heaven or something like that, or Valhalla, wherever.
Yeah, he does also make it sort of seem like he is just death at a certain point. Like he's just talking about like you come to me, like
when I'm ready for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's cool too. I think like just the simple idea of, it's sort of like what Michael Myers started out as before it got explained away into this stuff that kind of ruins Michael Myers, like he was cooler when he was just like a shape or just a form of just your anxiety kind of thing.
Right.
There's something cool about the blankness.
That's what makes like Freddy so terrifying in the beginning is like it's just like you just get these little tiny bits and pieces of it. And that's more fun. It's like you don't have to tell everybody everything. It's fine if you give away some information or you wrap it up, and it can be concise. It's just like, yep, he's the devil. I'm like, all right, cool. But like you don't have to go how he became the devil. Just he's the devil.
There's a big difference between not knowing what it is yourself and being insecure and telling everyone what it is. And all you really need to do is know what it is yourself, and then you can kind of play within those rules, right? Like,
right.
You need to know what the answer is, but like you don't need to like tell your audience. Like that's boring as hell.
Well, I mean, you think about it, you have John Carpenter that has never explicitly said if Childs or McCreary is the thing at the end. It's just all speculation. 42 years later.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
I have a fan theory that, like, what is it? That he actually drinks gasoline and then he gives it to him and he swigs it and doesn't react. So, like, that's how he knows that he's the thing as well.
Right.
I thought that was a neat idea.
Oh, yeah. And like I said, what makes Phantasm that unique is that I'd say almost every other franchise we've ever had has had the explanation slapped across our faces at some point in time. And it's almost like so ambiguous that you can just keep going balls to the wall. It doesn't matter what it is because you're making up the lore as much as you want.
It's a good one, man, and more people should check it out.
Yeah,
and it really is. It's surreal. It is like a fever dream. It kind of just keeps coming at you.
Yeah. So, all right. So, final words for anyone that would want to watch Phantasm that hasn't. What would you say to them? What's your pitch?
You can start, Nick.
Let me think about this for a second. It's fantastic. You got to go for it, man. Just sit down and watch it. It's like if you don't read about it, don't look at it. just sit down and watch it. That's a really fun way. I find like the movies that I've enjoyed the most are the movies that I sit down, I don't read a review, I don't read what someone's talking about it or a pitch. Just sit down and watch it and see what you think.
I think if you haven't seen Phantasm yet, that's probably okay.
That's fair.
Because it's I don't know how I honestly don't know how a new audience would react to Phantasm. If they would find it boring, if they find it stupid or whatever. But
Yeah.
If you're a horror fan, if you like, this is like proto elevated horror. It's the beginning of it. If you want to like call it that elevated horror, it's heady. It's out there. So if you're into that strange type of stuff, if you like a movie like Mandy, you're gonna like Phantasm.
yeah, also I think the reason I feel like it's okay if you haven't seen it yet is it's really not for everyone. But I think if you're into something that can be a little different and for something that has its complete own identity, I think that goes so far beyond horror. I think if you like movies, it's a good movie to see because there's just such weird tones. Yeah. There's magic, spirituality, and like action movie dumbness and like emotional vulnerability. It's bizarre and it works. So like, I don't know, like if you don't want to check it out, like you think it fucking sounds stupid and we're just talking about this thing for 51 minutes and 26 seconds for no reason, I'm like, fine. I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. But if you want to see a wild film that's unlike anything else, there's Phantasm.
And it's got a sick soundtrack.
Yes. And remember, always boob orbs. So that's
orbs, you missed it.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining tonight. I hope you had a good time.
That was great.
Before we sign off, I like to keep our pluggables here. So give us your pluggables. Where can people find you and follow you guys at?
So we're Tiny Voice Studios. It's us. There's other folks involved. Mike Hedford is one of our dear friends who's working on our new project, The Drumlins, which will be coming out next year. But for now, if you want to see what we actually do, is Blue Hour Movie is online somewhere. About
it, yeah, so we're on Instagram too, so at Tiny Voice Studios, I believe. But we're on Instagram, and you can see Blue Hour. It's available on Amazon. It's on Amazon for $4.99, or you can watch it for free on Tubi, Comcast, or a few other streaming services, I think, with ads. And then if you do a Google search, you can find some of our short films that we made in the past as well. 10, 13, 12, again, Wrong Turn, or Your Turn, I'm sorry. Sorry, my bad. But yeah, just check it out. And, just shoot us a message because we're horror fans too. Reach out. Don't be a stranger. If you've seen the podcast and you want to talk about Phantasm with us, we're happy to do that. But we want people to know that we're here too. We're into this type of stuff, and we're trying to make the type of movies that we want to see. Mm-hmm. So, hope you follow along with our adventure.
Yes, so thank you. And for me, I'm Graveyard, co-host of Conversation Void. And make sure to check out, as soon as this is done, we're releasing the second part of the Phantasm podcast review. So we go into highlights and low points of the Phantasm franchise. Check that out anywhere you get your podcast. And if you do on Apple reviews, we're trying to get to 200 reviews, because then we become monetized and do more fun stuff. And we're going to give away loot boxes if we hit that 200 number of reviews on Apple Podcasts. So make sure to check us out. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Don't get lost in the void. Good night.